We will now move on to our first panel session titled Living Challenges, Housing Opportunities. This session will explore how Japan-Australia partnerships can address Australia's housing shortage through technological and financial investments. Sumitomo Forestry is increasing its presence as a major home builder in Australia, highlighting the potential for collaboration in housing and construction. Our panelists will discuss innovative approaches and partnerships shaping the future of housing in Australia. Let's welcome our distinguished speakers to the stage. Mr. Odagane-san, please come up to the stage. To begin, the Honorable Harriet Shing MP will deliver a keynote address to set the scene. I now invite Minister Shing to take the stage. Please welcome Minister.
Good morning, everybody. It is so lovely to join you here today in such a beautiful setting. I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands upon which we gather today, the Wurundjeri people, and to pay my respects to elders past and present. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the many dignitaries who are here today. You are part of enduring, productive, prosperous and innovative partnerships that here in Victoria we take very seriously and that invite further collaboration that benefits the way in which we grow, the way in which we ensure that there is great opportunity for people living here in Victoria, and also that we continue with those global partnerships that make Victoria such a wonderful place to do business. I'm really delighted to be here today as the Minister for Housing and Building for Precincts and Development Victoria, and also for the Suburban Rail Loop, to talk about the sorts of things that are contributing to growth across the city and the way in which we can and should turn our minds to growing, but growing well. And this is where in everything from planning through to construction, jobs creation, and the integration of essential infrastructure into our city means that as we grow to becoming a city the size of London by the 2050s, we have well-placed homes, considered and thoughtful densification, the delivery of the sorts of large-scale developments as we know exist and have continued to thrive at Melbourne Quarter West, in Australia's largest build-to-rent development, constructed in partnership with Daiwa House and with Lendlease, that we see that together with industry, with investors and with all levels of government, we can deliver the sorts of things that make Victoria the envy of other parts of Australia. And it would be remiss of me to say, or not to say, I should say, that we don't want to outpace every other part of Australia, because why would you want to do business anywhere else? This is being reflected by the way in which here in Victoria we are outstripping other major cities for planning, for approvals of new homes, and for the sort of growth that is standing us in good stead in a way that delivers for greater affordability and greater availability of housing. It's also about providing a mix of opportunities and the jobs that come along with that. And where we can share in global opportunities, we continue to set the pace for the rest of Australia to be able to see the benefit of that productive infrastructure and collaboration take shape. We've announced a suite of actions to tackle Victoria's housing crisis and also to plan for a better future in the state. This, as you may well know, includes Plan for Victoria. This is an ambitious but achievable blueprint for the way in which we want to make sure that we have housing and land use working alongside sustainability and investment in infrastructure to create the sort of city and more broad environment that encompasses livability, opportunity, proximity to jobs and to services. We've also expanded our activity centre programs to help deliver more than 360,000 homes close to jobs, services and transport by 2051. And with 70,000 homes across the first stage of the Suburban Rail Loop East from Cheltenham through to Box Hill, we can see that that work, that planning, will bear fruit that is in the interests of our children and their children. New codes are also about providing an assurance of quality for buildings of up to 3 stories tall, and then accountability for developers and that transparency for building standards that apply from 4 to 6 stories. And great design fast-track planning pathways mean that, again, we are approving and considering those proposals and applications in a faster way than ever before, including townhouses and apartment developments. We've also signed the Single Home Code to streamline approvals for single homes and small second dwellings under lots of 300 square metres and above. That cuts red tape, and we know that where we can reduce regulation and increase the way in which the work is done, we will see benefit for everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of today's conversation. I look forward to continuing conversations with many of you. There are many familiar faces here in the room today, and the work that we're doing here in Victoria is taking us from strength to strength. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Shing. We'll now move on to our panel discussion. Rurika will be serving as the moderator for the session.
Thank you very much, Minister Shing. It's my pleasure to introduce today's panelists, Minister Shing, and to your right, Odagane-san from Sumitomo Forestry and Davis-san from Stockland. In this session, we are joined by key housing stakeholders from Australia and Japan. Odagane-san, may we begin with you? Could you share what your business is working on at the moment?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me today. Let me explain the Sumitomo Forestry strengths and also the contribution to the decarbonization of our company. Okay, thank you. So first of all, let me explain our company. So Sumitomo Forestry is, made a partnership with Henry Homes, which is in 2008, and then entered into the housing business in Australia. Since then, we made a partnership with Wisdom Home, which is in Perth, and then Scott Park Group Wisdom Home in Sydney, Scott Park Group in Perth, and then last year we made a partnership with Metricon, and then became the biggest home builder in Australia, which built about 7,000 units per annually. And then, in addition to that, we have a business for the development business, which built BTR or offices, also the landscape business, and also plantation business as well. And then, so now let me explain the how Sumitomo Forestry is tackling the decarbonization challenges of decarbonization. Sorry, could you change the page? Yes. So this is the chart that showing the pie chart, which showing the world CO2 emission ratio by industry sector, and the construction sectors actually account for 37% of the total emission, and then this 37%, the emission from the occupation, which is when you use that building, which called operational carbon, it's covered 70%, and then the emission from the construction phase, which called embodied carbon, it's account for 30%. And then actually, operational carbon is easy to reduce because if you use like a solar panel or build more zero energy houses, we can reduce that emission. But in the future, our challenge is how to reduce the embodied carbon. Okay, please show the next one. Sorry, yeah. So this is a Sumitomo Forestry's way to reduction of the embodied carbon. So this is a building which we built in Harriet, which built by timber, and the trees always absorb the CO2 emission, and then carbon. They absorb the carbon and then store it inside, and then that's we call the carbon sequestration, and then including that carbon sequestration. We by changing from ROC, which is like concrete, to the timber structure, we reduce about 54% of the carbon emission. Okay, next please. So this is how we not only building the how those timber building in not only Australia, we building in UK, Japan, America as well, and then try to contribute to decarbonization. Okay, next, sorry. And also this is the Sumitomo Forestry's value chain, which called the wood cycle, left-hand side. So we lead, grow the trees, grow the forest, and then, distributing lumber or wood materials, and they utilize that to the construction. And then, we use the waste from the, waste wooden material for the as a renewable energy, and then plant tree again. This we start turning this wood cycle, and then we try to contribute to decarbonization. And then this wood cycle is the right-hand graph shows that this is a decarbonization impact, and the red line shows that if the forest leave us no harvesting, no harvesting, and then if the trees at some point trees kind of stop observing the carbon, and then so they're going to be flat. But if you churning this wood cycle, we can achieve more high decarbonization. So yeah, that's our value chain. So thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Odagane-san. And now to Mike-san. I'm interested in understanding how Australian developer views the current landscape of the country's property sector. As you know, in recent years, there has been a notable influx of Japanese capital. How has this changed the sector?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rurika. And I'm not as well organised as my friend Yasu with no slides. So, but I suppose to give some thoughts from our perspective as a group, we've seen Japanese investors really overtake other sources of Asian capital to become an incredibly significant part of the real estate development sector. Certainly from Stockland's perspective, we have a number of very significant partnerships with Japanese groups across our Masterplanned communities business, our land lease communities business, and other parts of our development pipeline. When you think about residential real estate development, it is an incredibly capital-intensive proposition, particularly at the scale that we operate and other groups operate. So central to our strategy is diversifying our capital sources and aligning with partners that can bring capital but also bring incredible capability to our projects, so that we are tapping cutting-edge, leading global practice from I suppose a project execution, project visioning perspective. So we're really pleased to be partnering with a number of Japanese groups. I should also mention that outside straight residential development, it is really pleasing to see a number of very significant Japanese building companies investing in the Australian building sector. It's obviously a space that's been through a lot of disruption over the last 5 years from a supply chain, materials, labour supply cost perspective. So bringing that Japanese capital and I suppose backing from a balance sheet perspective has really provided a lot of confidence back into the sector, which is incredibly important with our customers who have been through a period where they've probably questioned, is building a domestic home right for us at this point in time? And that sentiment, I think, has weighed on the market over the course of the last few years. So seeing that balance sheet surety there, I think, is an incredibly powerful dynamic to reinforce that consumer sentiment.
Thank you, Mike-san. And Minister Shing, your state has an ambitious target of building 800,000 homes over the next decade. And what is the current trajectory and what is at stake?
Thank you for that question. We all know that growth is inevitable, but good growth is a choice. And this is where the housing statement is ambitious, but necessarily so. We want to make sure that we cater to population growth, but we also do so through a mix of typographies. This is where, again, everything from apartment dwellings through to townhouses, units, and the sort of small dwellings that people want and look for, whether as singles, as couples, small families, or older people who wish to age in place. That this calls for a number of innovations around the way in which we build and increase supply, but where we do that is just as important, and the role of government in managing regulation and speeding up those pathways to good decision making is key. Now, here in Victoria, we know that there's no finish line when it comes to the way in which we continue to drive those outcomes, with more housing being available here to meet that demand. But what we are doing is working. Since we announced those streamlined planning approval pathways, and since we developed and delivered a range of codes to assist with development where time is money and where consistency is all important in decision making, we have seen that Victoria is now outstripping every other part of Australia when it comes to building and approvals. We've got a long way to go, but these targets are in place as ambitious targets because they need to be. We also know that partnerships are essential, and as was mentioned, real estate and the Japanese partnerships here account for about $3 billion of more than $14 billion in Australian Japanese investment. This is of crucial importance to the way in which we bring and enhance and encourage investor confidence and those partnerships here in Victoria. And again, as was mentioned, we've got some really significant collaborations that have enabled us to meet that demand and to ensure that we're also harnessing the best of technology. The experience that Japan has, for example, in modern methods of construction, is something that we look to and that we would like to continue to develop partnerships to deliver, because we know that where Japan has excelled globally in the delivery of these modern methods of construction, we can not only cut the sort of energy consumption demands, make for greater sustainability, but we can also ensure that we are delivering faster building times, more efficient quality assurance, and also then that has a corresponding downward pressure on costs. So, as I like to say, the development and delivery of housing, availability and affordability is a jigsaw. We need all of those things to come together, and this is where, again, those partnerships with the private sector and across all levels of government are so important.
Thank you. And Odagane-san, let me ask you about some challenges from the Japanese viewpoint. Foreign businesses face certain hurdles, such as foreign purchasers surcharge. What kind of challenges is your business facing?
Okay. Yes. So the actually the surcharge. The stamp duty. It's very challenging for us actually, and then when the developers buy the land, and then and then next to the customers buy the land, it's double stamp, double stamp duties kind of was incurred, and then that makes really increase the properties expensive. Makes the property expensive, and then also the foreign-owned company, and additionally we have to pay the surcharge, stamp duty surcharge, which is about 2.57%, and then it's very it's very makes it expensive, but those stamp duty surcharge can deductible, but in Western Australia it's a bit difficult to because of their policy, bit difficult to get the claim to those deductions. So I understand that the government try to control the housing individual investors acquisition of property to which is not aligned with the actual demand. But then I think the government think about more priority to put the increasing housing supply, and then so I really want to we really want to amend that, the policy, and then, we give that, more easy for the builder to, build, and then developer to build, and then customer, to buy the houses. And then, in addition to that, again, the process of the accelerating of the government, approval process of the development, and then also the, improving the infrastructure is also, we feel like challenging in this country. So, really we really want to ask government to improve that. Yeah.
And I'm also curious about recent regulatory changes of Foreign Investment Review Board. Could you, Odagane-san, tell me what kind of implications are you experiencing from the recent regulatory changes?
Yeah, actually, so I have to check with the government, but in government agency, but in I think the foreign-owned company prohibit to buy the land which is the existing home for next 2 years, and then as a result, we cannot, for example, we cannot buy the land with such land and then demolish those houses and then rebuild the houses and then sell those. We cannot do that kind of things, and then. But recently, dividing the big lands to the smaller lots and then build like a medium density houses, such as like a townhome duplex, is those practices very popular, and then that's contributing to supplying affordable housing. But then we cannot take that procedure, and then also sometimes we build the display home in urban area, and then to the customer who expecting to have a local rebuilt housing, but then that's also challenging for us with this because of this policy. So again, same things, but I really want the government to think about how we can to legally amendment, and then try to give the fair conditions for the give the foreign-owned company give the same condition as domestic-owned company. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's talk about innovation. Mike-san, what is your strategy to overcome some challenges, as you mentioned, labor shortage or regulatory approval or rising material costs? What's your solution?
Oh, that's a tricky problem for a developer. Look, the way that we think about those elements, there's a multitude of responses that we have as a group, but I think maybe two key priorities for us. One is leveraging our scale as the largest residential developer in Australia to provide our supply chain with surety in terms of workflow, and we use that to ensure that from a supply and working with Yasu in his businesses, we're able to ensure that plant, labour, materials are on site when we need it, and we've got the buying gains given our scale that we can pass on to our customers and help address this affordability challenge that's a perennial issue across the country. So supply chain is a big one. How we also leverage the smarts within our supply chain to push the boundaries in terms of cutting edge materials, recycled content materials, how we work with regulatory authorities to adopt those materials where we may need to see a change in standards in order to accommodate a change in the specification for a given home, civil infrastructure project, whatever indeed it may be. So all of those elements working in tandem are a way of addressing those factors that you've mentioned. The Minister mentioned earlier modern methods of construction, and we're certainly doing a lot of work in that space as a business at the moment, as are many in the industry. We see immense opportunity to scale up these prefabricated housing typologies to address timeliness of provision of the homes that we're developing, but there's also a really interesting opportunity to address safety on site, productivity, the ESG credentials, the reduced material wastage that comes with these homes too. So whilst they're more expensive than a conventional home, stick and brick home to build, they can be built in a third of the time. So there's some interesting economics surrounding modular housing that we're investigating and prototyping at the moment. And Yasu and his team are doing a lot of work with us in this space nationally, which is pleasing.
And Minister Shing, what is your answer for some challenges that Australian, Japanese housing sector businesses are facing in your state?
Thank you. That's a really, really important question, and I think the answer to that begins with the variation that we have around different jurisdictions across Australia. So here in Victoria, our cumulative land taxes are actually lower than New South Wales. We have better affordability for housing because we are delivering more housing, and we've done a lot of planning reform to make sure that decisions can occur faster and in a more consistent way. We've also got the stamp duty exemptions and concessions for units, apartments and townhouses. That's been extended for another year, and that alongside with codes and the fast-tracked approval processes means that we are making headway in an area where that demand has been enormous because of labour and materials shortages. But it's also then about jobs creation. How do we make sure, for example, with our free TAFE courses in growth areas and demand, that we're actually getting the best and brightest workers in to be able to get out onto site, to build these projects and complete these developments in a way that gives certainty to investors, that provides that long-term pipeline of development interest, but that also enables developers to have that opportunity for a base here in Victoria. We've got some very loyal developers here, but we also want to make sure that we're building and we're nurturing those relationships with developers and investors who have perhaps typically not had a base in Victoria. But the challenges are being faced all around Australia in similar themes. They may manifest differently whether you're in Brisbane or in Sydney or in Perth, but ultimately the challenges are about supply, about materials, about the regulatory environment and framework, and also about the way in which taxes, stamp duty and the sorts of levies that are required to be paid are well understood, but also planning approvals processes, everything from drainage through to the way in which water authorities, planning departments and everything from building and architectural and heritage related matters can be dealt with consistently and quickly. Here in Victoria we're doing everything we can because of the work through the planning reforms, the housing statement, Plan for Victoria, to make sure that we've also got those opportunities in place that are developed in partnership with, whether that's the industry affordability groups, partnerships, for example, with superannuation funds, those large developers who we know can contribute to those better pipelines here in Victoria. And what we are doing is working. Are we there yet? No. Have we gotten to the finish line? No. But are we making progress? And the answer to that definitively is yes.
Thank you so much. And Odagane-san, one of the interesting development in Australia-Japan relationship is your business acquired Metrogon a few years ago, and the company was at one point near collapse, and it was very interesting move. What was the thinking behind the acquisition?
Yeah, okay. By acquisition from the Metricon, we could grow. We could expand our business in Australia, housing business in Australia rapidly. And then when you do this kind of acquisition, we always value the value of the potential of the market growth. And then it was obvious that the Australia has the can expect to see the population, the economic growth, and then we can expect the steady housing supply, housing demand as well. So and then also the by acquisition of this, we could acquire the very strong brand of the Metricon, and then also we could get the wide range of the products. So Metricon is the biggest home builder in Australia, and then they maintain the very strong brand in the market, and they have a wide range product which covers from first home buyer to the very high-end customers, and then that covers all the segments of demand. So it was very, the mutual fund has very, hard time last couple years ago about financially, but it's now recovered. And then after that, especially after Sumitomo being a partnership with them, we can, our overseas housing business experience and then also financial foundation is provide more stability or trust to the customer, trade, suppliers, and then also the even the employee, and then they reborn. I think they became a new strong company now. And then Sumitomo Forestry is we try to provide supply about 10,000 units by 2030. But we are not only chasing the number of units. We try to pursue the more efficiency or profitability, and then through our companies, our Sumitomo Forestry group synergies, and then leveraging the position of the biggest home builder. We try to pursue the efficiency of the procurement, construction, and also even the back offices. We try to get more higher profitability, and then we try to provide more great high quality houses, and they also to contribute to the challenging of the housing shortage. Yes.
Thank you very much, Minister Shing and Odagane-san and Mike-san, and please join me in giving them a big hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Shing, Yasuhiro Odagane, and Mike Davis.